Hello everyone, my name is Nilesh. In this video tutorial, we are going to discuss Java GUI technologies. Using these technologies, we can develop desktop-based applications in Java. So Java comes with three GUI technologies. First one is AWT, called as a Abstract Window Toolkit. Second, Java Swing technology. And third one is Java FX. In this tutorial, we are going to focus on Java Swing technology to create the GUI. Java Swing technology has got couple of advantages. The biggest one is it will give you same look and feel in all operating systems. So whatever window you will be creating using Java Swing application, the window will look exactly same on Windows, Linux, or Mac. Another thing, Java Swing follows MVC architecture that makes clear separation between the data, view, and event handling. Of course, we will learn about this in detail with some examples. I guess it is high time to get started with making some simple window. Now, to make a simple window, you need to make your own class inherited from Swing's built-in JFrame class. And you need to create the object of the frame class. Let us try to do it practically. Here I'm using the Eclipse Java ID. You can use any ID or you can just compile on a command line as per your choice. So I'm creating a new Java project and we will stick to the Java version 1.8. This is my Swing demo 01. Now let me create a class for this. I name it as window 1. I can also write main function in it. Now, as I said earlier, if you want to make your own window, you need to inherit your class from JFrame class of Java Swing. And then you need to create object of your window class. How do you display that window? To display the window, it is very simple. You need to just write set visible. However, to make that window visible with some size, you should be setting up some size to the window. You can give some width, you can give some height. Let's say I'm trying to give width as 600 and height as 400 pixels. Trust me, this is enough just to show a basic window. Let me run my application. And do you see a window in front of you? However, when I close this application, you find that my application is still running. It is not fully terminated and I need to terminate it manually. Now, how do I handle this situation? Also, how I can set up the information like title, how we can add components into my window. Let us start discussing all these things one after another. So let me go ahead and create a constructor, and inside constructor we can initialize our window and we can also add components into that window. Let me first do the initialization. The very first initialization that I want to do is setting some title. So this is my first window. So this is a title that will be visible onto the title bar. The second one, I want to set up the behavior that moment I close the window, it should terminate my whole application. So this is to be done by set default close operation. And set default close operation, I need to write it something called as a exit on close. So when I click on a close button, the whole application will exit. Of course, you can also have some other options, and later we will look at the other alternative as well. Next to that, now this window should be visible with the title first window, and then I can close the window and my application is terminated. Now the next question, how I'm going to add new components inside the window. Let me get started by adding one small simple button onto the window. Now that simple button onto the window is represented with a JButton class in Java Swing. So button, let's say I name it as a submit button. And submit button, I need to create object of it, new button. You can give the title and everything right here, or you can just create the button and then you can set the title letter. So let's add the title is submit. You want to also set up the location of that particular button. How do you put in that? So submit button dot set location. You can give X and Y coordinates on the window. You can say set size. You can give the width and height of the window. Sorry, width and height of the button. Or quickly, you can use set bounds, where you have option to set X, Y, width and height all together. Let's say that I'm giving X as 100. Let me give Y as 150. Width probably 80 is good option. Height, I'm giving it like a 30. I'll explain you what this 100, 150, 80 and 30 is. Just give me a minute. And then this one, I can add it into my frame. Right? Let us run the application once again. And you see that such a big button is created. The whole button, you are able to see that you can click it. And it has not really honored the values X, Y coordinate that we have given. Now this is due to a concept called as a layout manager in Swing. So by default, whatever component that you add, it will span the whole window. Of course, I'm not willing to do so. So I say that I do not need any default layout manager, and that can be done by simply saying set layout manager as null. Now, whatever coordinates I have given, those coordinates will be seen for that button. And now I can explain you what is significance of this X, Y, width and height. So this is our X coordinate. This is Y. This is width and this is height. Please understand the coordinate system. So for a window like this, the left top corner is 0, 0, 0, 0. Your X will get increase in this direction. X get increase in right direction and Y get increase in this direction, downwards. Now, when I say it is X is 100, so you see that from the left edge, whatever distance, this distance is basically X. And in this example, I have given this X as 100. The distance from top to that particular button is referred as Y. And in this example, this distance is 150 pixels. The width, you can see a width over here, submit button, horizontal width, and the width is given as 80. And the height of the button is this much, where this height is 30, right? So this is how you can create one simple button on this window. What if you want to create one more button? Probably, let's say I want to create one more button, and somewhere I want to place that button on to the right side of that submit button. Is it possible? Yes, you can simply place it to the right side of the plus submit button by just changing the X value. So currently the X value is 100. You can make it 200 or 300, and you will find that the button is shifted to the right. Let's give a try. I'm closing this window, and let me add one more button. So private J button, and this button is, let's say, click button, right? The code should look similar, no major changes. So I will simply say that this is a new button, click button. Click button, I want to set the title as click. Click button, I want to set the bounds, and bounds, I want to set it somewhere 200 or 250. Rest all Y, width, height, I'm just keeping it same. And then I want to add that click button to the right side of that submit. Done. Now you can check a look. You have submit button. So distance from here to here, it is 100. And distance from here to here is 250. Now I have two different buttons created over here. This is a very simple and basic level example. But trust me, this button, when clicked, you want to do something. So how exactly you can do something when the button is clicked? Now this is called as event handling in Java Swing technology. Now this event handling is done with the help of something called as the listeners. So listeners are the interfaces given by the Java Swing or even in AWT. And whenever you have certain operation, certain interaction done on any component, the respective listener will be invoked. These listeners are typically the interfaces provided by the Java. Like as far as button is concerned, there is a listener called as the action listener. So all you need to do is you need to add one action listener to that individual button. How you can do that? So here we go. Let's say I have a submit button. For this submit button click, I want to do something. So submit button dot add action listener, and add action listener take an argument which is action listener interface. You can go to the Java docs, and in Java docs, you can take a look at what action listener is all about. You will find that action listener has got only one method, and that method is action perform. This method will be called when the button is clicked. But action listener is an interface. So you need to go ahead and implement that method in some class inherited from the action listener. Well, so you can write your own class. I would prefer to write a simple anonymous inner class. So new action listener, and in that action listener, you find I have created even the action perform method. Now this method will be called whenever submit button is clicked. For now, let me just write a simple system.out.println message. Please note that this message will be displayed onto the console. It will not be displayed into the main window. So I can just say that submit button is clicked. Done. And let me run it once again. Now you can take a look at moment I click on submit, the submit button is clicked, the message, you can see it onto the console. However, when I click on click, nothing is happening because this particular listener, new action listener, is attached to, associated to the submit button. It is not attached to the click button. What if I want to take action for the click button as well? Well, if you want to take action on a click button as well, you need to write one more listener for the same. Let me handle that. So click button dot add action listener, new action listener, done. And inside this, you can write the logic that you want to execute when the click button is clicked. So I just put a message, click button is clicked. That should be enough. Let me run it. And now when I click on click button, so click button is clicked. When I click on submit button is clicked. Now this is simple and straightforward. Have you noted that there is also something called as an action event? Now this action event is an object that contains more information about the event. Now what sort of information that it brings? So kind of information that it brings, you can see that which button is clicked. You want to get the information about that button. So I would say that button object. Button object, I get that by using e.getSource. So e.getSource returns you the object, the component on which the event is performed, event happened. Next, suppose for that button, there's a title I have written. The title is some kind of click title. So you want to get that particular title or that particular action. So you find that button has got a concept called as action. And I can get that action by writing e.event.get action command. Get action command. So this action command, by default, the name, the title of that button. Let me just show you. You can take a look at. So when I click on click button, so you can see that this is the information. This is showing me the object of J button. Its toString method output is displayed, and its action command is clicked. As I say that this click command is by default the title. If you do not wish to give it as a title, or you want to give it as some different code name or something like that, you can do that. You can give it some unique ID to that. How you can do that? So you can mention click button, set action command, and you can mention somewhere, let's say this is my btn2. Now for the click button, the action command is named as btn2. So that btn2 is kind of an ID, and that ID action command will be retrieved into this action event get action command method. Let me run that. I click on click button, and have you noted that button action command is btn2? And then probably you are worried why you need this action command. What is the purpose of it? Where exactly it is useful? Let us go ahead. Let me show you that you can also write a common listener for multiple buttons. If you have seen in this particular example, we have one listener for the submit button. We have another listener for the click button. But what I'm saying, if you really wish, instead of writing two different listeners, you may think of writing one common listener, and that common listener is to be used for both the buttons. How we can do that? Let me just go ahead and let me implement a listener first in place. So I'm creating a class maybe button action listener, something. Here I'm not using anonymous class, but I'm just trying to use a proper class which is locally right now. You may also write it on the top or into a separate .java file, correct? This is inherited from action listener. I need to write the method called as the action perform method. Done. And then I can create the object of this action listener. So button action listener, let's say action listener is equal to new button action listener. I can add this particular listener in both the buttons. So as you've seen over here, submit add action listener, we have created new one. Instead of creating a new one, whatever action listener I have created over here, submit button dot add action listener, I'm giving the above action listener. Exactly same thing I can also do it for the click button. So click button dot add action listener, and I'm again giving the same action listener. Now you will realize that the same action listener is executed when either of the button is clicked. You can see a message, let's say button is clicked. But now you have a question, which button is clicked? Let me first check, is it really calling? Button is clicked, button is clicked, great. But exactly which button is clicked, how you are going to get that information? So as I said that there are two ways. Way number one, you can use e dot get source, that will return you the button on which the event occurred. Of course, it will have return type object, so you need to downcast it to the J button, and then you can access whichever member of the button that you wish. You can access it over there. This is one way. So you can print, let's say that button title is something btn dot get text. One way. And second way, you can get the action command. So get e dot get action command. So get action command, as you have seen, I have set the action command for this button as btn2. I can set action command for this button as probably btn1. Then now that also I can use it over here. So string, this is my action command, right? I can print. So I call it as an action command, and I can print that. So this is my command. Done. Now you can take a look at, when I click on submit, I get button is clicked, title is submit, and action command is this. When I click on this, I see that title is click and action command is btn2. And I can use that information to write two different logics, like command dot equals, let's say btn1. You may write, you may do some operation saying that maybe submit button is clicked, or a message or work that you want to do. Else you may write it command dot equals, if it is equal to btn2, and you mention click button is clicked. You may also write the additional logic that you want to do. And let us run it once again. I click on submit button. You see the result. I click on a click button, and again you see a new result. Let us continue with our discussion about event handling further. So far, we handled only one event of the button, that was action event, button click event, and we handled it using action listener interface. If we move further and deal with some radio buttons or checkboxes, their selection can be changed. That will cause change event, and we can handle it using change listener interface. we can move on to the drop down boxes, also called as a combo boxes. Now combo boxes selection change event is referred as item event, and it can be handled using item listener. We can also use list boxes or table, and their selection change event is called as list selection event, which is can be handled using list selection listener. Now all these listeners, they have the single method, and we can implement that single method using anonymous inner class as I shown you, or you may try to use lambda expressions for the same. However, there are a few events in which we have multiple methods to handle. For example, as you are dealing with the main window, the window can have window event, and that window event to be handled using window listener. However, this window listener doesn't have a single method. If you refer the documentation of window listener, you will realize it has got certain events like window activated or window deactivated. Window, when you click on a close button, it will cause window closing and window closed events. You can minimize the window, that is window iconified, or restoring, that is window de-iconified event. Or when you open the window for first time, made it visible, at that time window opened event. So if you want to handle any one of this event, probably you need to write a class inherited from window listener. You need to implement all its 7 methods as kind of empty method, and only one or two method of your interest you need to write the code in that. The situation is bit cumbersome. To help here, Swing provided a window adapter class. This window adapter class is inherited from window listener interface and has provided default empty implementation of all its events. So instead of writing your class inherited from window listener interface, now you can write your own class inherited from window adapter class. And this window adapter class, since it has got all method default implementation, you can only implement the method that you need and write the logic there. This will help you to shorten down your code. But please note that window adapter is a name of a class. It is not the name of the interface. One more example you can think of is mouse event, about the mouse button click, right? And it can be handled using mouse listener. Just like window listener, mouse listener also has got multiple methods. If you are interested in handling only one or two events, instead of mouse listener, mouse adapter can be helpful. So let us go ahead. We will take one example which is commonly required, that is nothing but window closing or window close kind of event. If we see our application over here, we have written our default close operation is exit on close. Exit on close, it means that whenever I will close the window, my application, my JVM will exit. In other words, my whole application is terminated. Now, sometimes you might want to create multiple windows in your application, and closing one particular window, you may not wish to close the whole application. Sometimes on click of closing, you might want to do certain operations. So how you can handle this? Exactly, this is where window event and window listener come into picture. But as I said that, now since I want to handle only one, that is window closing event, I will not unnecessarily implement window listener, rather I'll go with the window adapter. How I can do it? So this dot add window listener, and we can add a class called as new window adapter. Now please note that this is an anonymous class inherited from window adapter. And in this window adapter, I will not write all the method. I will write only window closing method, which will be called when I click on a close button of my application window. Now, in this particular case, it is my responsibility to terminate that particular window, not to just take that window in the background. And that can be done by calling dispose method on this window object. By the way, how do you access this outer window object inside my anonymous inner class? We can simply use the name of the outer class dot this. This will refer to the main window object. And on that, I can call the method dispose method. What dispose method does? Dispose method actually terminates your application. If you just want to write some sort of a system.out.println, I can just put a message over here. Let's say bye. Let me run the application. And when I click on close, you can notice this bye is executed. Followed by that, this dispose method is executed, which has closed window properly. And since window is closed properly, even my application is also terminated. So I'm not really calling system.exit, but since my window is disposed, destroyed properly, the application get auto exited or auto terminated, right? If during exit, if you want to do some additional operation, you can do it into the window closing event, right? Now, so far, we talked about how to create the window, how to place some buttons on the window, how to handle the button events. We also talked about how to handle window closing event. Now it's time to go ahead and add few more components into our window. Instead of doing everything into the same application, I prefer to create a new Java project. And in this new Java project, we will try to create some components and try to understand how to deal with them, of course, apart from buttons. So let me create a new class once again. I call it as a window02 class from the package com.example. The basic window creation process is still going to remain same. So I have to still write my class inherited from JFrame. You need to create the object of that class. You can set some size for that, like 600 pixel width, 400 pixel height, and you can make it visible. But when this window is displayed, on the top of this window, I want to display certain controls and also certain properties of the window to be handled. So as we have done earlier, we can write a constructor, and in constructor, we can initialize the window and we can add new components here. So how do I initialize the window? As we have done last time. So you can set some title. Maybe I can call it as second window. Next to that, I will set up the behavior this dot set default close operation like close on exit or exit on close. Our basic window operation is ready. And I can close that. But now I want to create the additional controls. So let me show you creating few more components. A simple level components are like a label, and let's say that This is my name label. I want to add the label. I want to display that label. As we have done last time, this time also, we will keep the layout manager as null. Now, since our layout manager is null, whatever coordinates that we will give, our components will be placed exactly on those components. Let us continue further. Create a name label is equal to new J label. You might give the label text over here, or later on you can set it using set text method. For time being, I'm just giving the label over here. Let's say this is my label. I want to set the bounds for that. Set bounds. Let's say x coordinate is 50. Y coordinate, again I'm giving it 50. Width, I believe it is fine. Height 30 should be okay. And this one, we can add it inside our frame. So it's name label. Let us see how it look like. So you find that this is my label, name colon. And you want to create some more labels, you can just add that further. Let's say I want to have another label, let's say gender label. How you can add one more gender label on the top of it? Same logic. Let's say I will put it, let's say gender. You can select it, you can give the text. The gender label, I want to keep it same x coordinate. Only y coordinate, I want to take it below. So instead of 50, let me give a try with 100. And I'll keep width and height same. And now you can take a look at the gender label, right? If you are looking for something more, let's say I want to also take some hobbies. So to take the hobbies, I want to have something, let's say hobby label. Okay. And similar label, I can create one more. Now you can create as many labels as you want, one after another. Good. Now, let us continue further. Labels are very easy to deal with, but I want to also take some text boxes. Now, how do I make a text box? So to make a text box, we have J text field. J text field is to make the text box. So I can make the text box, let's say that name text field. Name text field, I want to create it in front of the name label. So let me just write it. Name text field is equal to new J text field. By default, I do not want any text into that. So I just kept it as it is. Name text field, I want to set some bounds. Some bounds. And bounds are I'm giving, let's say 150 in X. Y, I want to give it 50. Width, maybe I can put it around 150. And height, I'll keep it 30. You want to add it in the same way, name text field. Just check how it look like. Oh yes, my text box is ready. Now for this text box, if you want to collect the data, how do you collect the data from the text box? Let us do one thing. Let us create a button, and on a button click, I want to fetch that data and maybe want to display it onto the console. Okay. So you know how to make the buttons so far. So J button, let's say submit button. And this submit button, I will be creating after my hobby label. So we have submit button is equal to new J button. You can just give a label as submit. We can set submit button dot set bounds x, y. So let's say my x coordinate is 100, y coordinate is, let's say, 200, width 80, height is 30. And then this dot add, we have submit button. Now, when I click on a submit button, I want to fetch the data from the text box. How I can fetch it? Let's go ahead and add action listener for the same. So we have add action listener, new action listener, and we are ready to handle the button click action event. Now in this click event, I want to actually get the data that was written in text box at that time. So name text field, I can get that data using get text method. Now get text method will give me the string, let's say text that we entered. I can just put it on console for time being. Let's say that text field text is this. Let us try to run the application. And when I try to run this application, let me enter some data over here. I click on submit button and you find that this data is retrieved in my the event handler and displayed on console. But you may not be interested in displaying it onto the console. You may be interested in again writing it into the text box, maybe after capitalizing it. How we can do that? So let me just say text dot to uppercase. I converted it into the uppercase and I want to set it back to my text box. I can do that by using name text field dot set text method. So you just give the same text back, and now you should be able to see that when I click on a submit button, whatever data I have written in text box will be capitalized and written back to the text box. This way, you can retrieve the text from the text box and you can also modify the text in text box using its get text and set text method. Let me just close the application. Now, since we have taken a look at this text field, we can also go for the next component. The next component I want to show you is a radio button. And I want to take the user input like male and female. How we can do it? So I want to declare probably two radio buttons. First radio button is kind of, let's say, male radio button. And the second one, you might want to declare, let's say, female radio button, right? I want to create these radio buttons just after this gender label. Let me add it over here. Let's say male radio button is equal to new radio button. You might want to use the text over there. You can select it, text, let's say it's male. Then I want to set male radio button dot set bounds. X coordinate, let's say, is 150. Y coordinate, I'm giving it 100 in front of gender. Width, I'll keep it 80. And height, I'll keep it 30. And I will add this radio button. I also want to create like female radio button. Control C, Control V. I have a button. It's a female radio button with the text. I want to give the X coordinate probably after this. So it is, let's say, 250. And I also want to add this radio button. You want to see how it looks? After gender, this is like a male radio button and this is female radio button. And by default, none of the radio button is selected. If you want to by default select certain radio button, keep it selected. You might go for adding a value in a constructor saying that it is true and this will be by default selected. But other way around, you may also select it later on by calling its method mail radio button dot set selected true. So you might either initialize it in a constructor or you might initialize it later programmatically and it is selected. But do you know that at this moment, these radio buttons can be selected, both of them. So I can select this as well as this. This doesn't make any sense. What I want is either one of these two radio buttons should get selected. If I want only one radio button should get selected, both of these radio buttons must be added in a common group. And that common group has to be created explicitly, something called as button group. So we have something called as a button group. Now this is, I call it as a gender button group. And both of them to be added into the same group. So let me first create a group itself. Gender button group is equal to new gender button group. And I want to add buttons in that group. So add the first button I'm adding is male radio button. And second button I'll be adding is female radio button. When multiple buttons are added into the same group, you can select only one out of that. How? You can check. Male is already selected. I can select female. I can select male. I can change it either one. So both of them will never be selected at once. So only one radio button from the group of buttons can be selected. By the way, is there any way I can handle the event of this selection change? Well, yes, you can do that. And that can be done by adding the next event handling mechanism. So I guess I told you for the radio button checkboxes, we have something called as a change event. And we need to add the change listener for the same. How? Let us give a try. So I have mail radio button dot add change listener. You can write add new change listener. It has got only one method, that is state change method. And inside this, you can write a logic that your mail radio button is selected. But is it selected or deselected? You find that you can try to get the information from the radio button itself. Let me just print it over here. So mail radio button selected. Selected, is it true or false? We can get the information from mail radio button itself dot is selected method. So if radio button is selected, you can see that it is true. And the same thing I can write it for the female radio button as well. Just a little change and I put it over here. Let me try to run this and you can take a look at the text boxes that what exactly happens when I select the female radio button. So let me select the female radio button and you see that moment it is selected, it has got a true. If I select male radio button, so you can have the female radio button is false, but male radio button is true. As you might have seen that it is not only doing the event once, but it is doing event multiple times because every time you are even hovering mouse on that or changing the selection, removing mouse from that, every time the same event is getting occurred called as a change event. So inside change event, you can always check for is your radio button selected, and based on that, you might want to do some actions, right? So we talked about how to create new labels, how to add text box, how to get the text data, how to set the text field data, how to create the radio button, and how to select only one radio button out of multiple using button group, how to trap the event of the button change. These are kind of the basic swing controls. Of course, the swing controls will go to the next level when we start talking about the more advanced controls like combo box, like list box, like tree, because all these are dependent on something called as a MVC concept of the swing. Now, what is MVC and how swing is dealing with the MVC? Let me first of all tell you the full form of MVC. MVC stands for Model, View, and Controller. Now, MVC, Model View Controller, is one of the design pattern while developing complex softwares, where we try to divide the responsibility of the software components into the multiple parts. Here, the model part is typically deals with the data of the application or data of the component. View part talks about the appearance, how it look like. So appearance of the application, appearance of the UI, or appearance of the component. And then controller is kind of a glue between that data and view, typically dealing with the event handling mechanism. So whatever events are done with that particular component in that particular application, they will get handled by the controller. Now the question is how swing is dealing with the MVC. As I said that in more complex components like combo boxes, list boxes, trees, table, they have divided the data as form of models. Now this model can be the data in the component, or that model can be the selection model. So which items from the component are selected, so that is taken care over here. So we can have different models, a simple data model, we can have simple item selection model. View talks about how my component, swing control look like. You might want to set up some color, you want to might set up some border, you want to uh, put it width, height of the component. So that talks about the view. And then whatever events that will happen, so maybe I'm changing the selection of the drop down box, I'm changing the selection of the list box. Now these are typical events. These events are trapped by the controller, and the controller is responsible for executing corresponding listeners. Now you will realize the actual use of MVC when you see the first bit complicated control. So this bit complicated control that I have, let me demonstrate you into a new demo. So let me make it swing demo 03. Into this, I will create a new class, window 03 with main. Just to save a little time, we can copy the basic window features from the previous application itself. So we can write extends frame as usual. We can create certain constructor and do some basic initialization. So window 3 constructor that we have and some basic initialization we are doing over here. We can create our components inside that letter. Initialize components. To display that particular window, the base code still remains same. So I'm creating the object of the window and calling its method. So creating object, it is window 03w is equal to new window, and we are showing that. So our basic window is now ready. Now once my basic window is ready, I want to add a combo box into that. How to create a combo box? Just now I was telling you that it is divided into the 2-3 components. One is model that handles the data, then the view that shows you the appearance, and probably controller which deals with the event handling mechanism. So let me create J combo box. This combo box I want to keep only the string data. Maybe I want to have, let's say, list of some subject. Let's say subject list. Subject list, I can create it. Subject list is equal to new combo box. You might think of adding the string items over here. That is absolutely possible. But if you start going into the more complicated application, putting it string items or string vector is not suggested as a good idea. The better one is to go with the combo box model so that you can even deal with more complicated stuff. So let's say I have something subject combo box model, combo model. Now this subject combo model has to be created. So let me first create that default combo box model. I'm storing all strings into that. Name is to be given as subject combo model. Let me create object of subject combo model and put my data into that. So new combo model, we can put a string array into that. So whatever string array subjects I want to create, let's say I have a couple of subjects like Java. Maybe I have a subject like big data. Maybe I have subject like database. Maybe I have subject like Linux, and you can add as many as you wish. I want to add that into model, and that model I have attached to my combo box. How do I display the combo box? That part still remains same. So you can just put it subject list dot set bounds, and you can give the values, let's say 100. We can have y coordinate, let's say 100. Width you can give it, let's say 80 or 100. Height, I guess 30 should be enough, and you add it into subject combo model. Sorry, subject list, and subject list I want to add it over here. Probably this is a name combo box. Instead of giving a name subject list, I prefer to call it as subject dropdown or subject combo box. This will be better and more readable, right? Let me run it and check. Do you see it is created? And you can have certain dropdown with all the data. Now the next question, how do you find out which one is selected, or if you want to select a specific one, what you need to do? If we have some of the ready-made methods, you can look into the subject combo box and set selected index. So you can just go there and put it set selected index to give a selected index. By default, the 0th index was selected. You might give it some index, let's say 2, and then you find that in that index 2, that is database, will be by default selected. Is it? But what if I want to trap the selection change event? As discussed earlier, to handle combo box event, we have something called as a item event, and that is to be handled using item listener. How we can deal with? So we have subject combo box dot add item listener, and you need to just add item listener. For that, it has got a single method, that is item state change, right? So this item state change, you can try to get the selected item from here. You can try to see the get state change, what state is change. We have certain options to select from, right? So how do I get the information about which item is selected? How do I access that information? We can access that information using its e dot get state change. We have get state change, and if the state change is selected state, then and only then I want to find out the selected item. So e dot get state change is equal to sorry, item event dot selected item. Then I want to see which item is really selected, and that I can do get it either by saying e dot get item. Now since I know that my combo box is a combo box of all strings, the get item method, though it is returning object, I can downcast it to the string. So string item is equal to e dot get item, typecast it, and you can get the value from this. So selected item is item. Is it simple? Let us give a try. And moment I change it to something different, you find that Java is selected. Moment I change it to something different, I say that big data is selected. If I change to something else, Linux is selected. But rather, this is not the only way to collect the selected item. We can also think of getting the selected index and try to get the data from that. How? So you can have skip combo box and get selected index, or you may go for get selected item direct. So get selected index will give you integer index, where you will get to know the selected index, and my selected index is this. Or if you want to get the item, instead of item event, we may have option of subject combo box dot get selected item. Of course, we need to again downcast it to the string, and we can try to print that item once again. Purposefully, I'm showing you multiple ways of how to access the data from the combo box, because in different situations, you might need to use different methods for doing the same job. So if I change it from here to Java, there are two ways that I can select, and the next index is the first index, big data, and next index is probably the third index, Linux. I hope you got a really good idea about how you can make a combo box. As we will go on to the more advanced components, you will get more clarity on the concept of model and how it can be used effectively. After talking about combo box, it's time to go on to the next swing component, that is list box. In combo box, we can only select one item at a time. However, list box, we can select even multiple items at the same time. That makes list box a little more complex than the combo box. For combo box, we have a single model that holds the data. For list box also, we need one model for holding the data. However, there is one more model that holds the selection data of that particular list. Just to make it more clear, let us have our next demo. Now for this next demo, I will create a new project. I will create a new class. Let us try to check if the window is working. Good. Now inside this window, I want to create a new list box where we can create a new default list model. Since I want to make list box of strings, I will just give a name over here. Let's say called as a hobby list model. How do I deal with the hobby list model? So hobby list model is equal to new default list model. You can note that constructor doesn't have any way to pass the data. However, we can add this data later on programmatically by hobby list model dot add element, and we can add hobbies one after another. Instead of hard coding the hobbies, I just put a simple loop to add multiple hobbies over here. So let me try to add 4 hobbies, and I just name it simply as hobby plus I. Now the data of my list is ready. I can use JList object to create the actual list box. JList, I call it as hobby list, and this is a JList of string type I'm creating. Now hobby list is equal to new JList object is created. As usual, we can set the bounds for the component. Set bounds, let's say 100 pixel, 100 y, 100 or 80 width, and height also I keep it 100. Good. I want to add that hobby list inside my window. Let me check if list is visible. Oh, list is visible. However, there is no data because we have not attached the model to the list. How we can attach model to the list? Just like drop down combo box, we can pass it into the constructor, or we can also think of using the set model method of my list. Right now, I just pass it to the constructor and try to run it once again. You see that hobby 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Now, what if I have multiple hobbies? Instead of 4, I have 9. And there you see the problem. Here only 4, 5 hobbies are visible, but you are not able to scroll this list box further. Now, in order to make the list box scrollable, you have to use another special component of the swing called as JScrollPen. If you want to make any of the swing components scrollable, which is increasing beyond its bounds, so you can put it into the scroll pen and you can try to add that scroll pen into the JFrame. So what exactly I'm trying to do? I'm trying to create one scroll pen inside my main window. Let's say this is my main window. Inside this, I can create a scroll pen, and scroll pen, I need to place it inside my main window. This is my scroll bar, which I can scroll up or I can scroll down. And inside this plus scroll pen, I have to create the list box or any other component that I want to scroll. In this particular in this particular list box, I can add the elements, let's say hobby1, hobby2, hobby3, and so on and so forth. And these elements will be accessible, right? Please note, inside my frame, I need to add the scroll pane, and inside scroll pane, I need to add the list box. So now it's time to create a new scroll pane first. So private J scroll pane, I call it as just hobby scroll pane. I can try to create object of hobby scroll pane, and within its constructor, I can pass the component that I want to make it scrollable. In the list box, I want to make it scrollable. Now I will set the bounds for the scroll pane, and I will add that scroll pane into my frame. Now I'm no more adding my hobby list box into the frame. Rather, list box is added into the scroll pane, and then scroll pane is added into the frame. Let me run this. And do you see that we have a scroll bar available? Please note, scroll bar will be available only when it exceeds the bound. If the data is less, so number of hobbies are less, in that particular case, you do not need any scroll bar for that, right? By the way, I do not want to limit myself just showing the list box. I also want to get the data, the selected data from the list box. And not only I want to get the selected data of the list box, I also want to handle the event of the selection change. By the way, which event is used for that? Because last time we talked about something called as a list selection event. However, as I said, list box is bit more complicated as compared to combo box. Combo box, we have only the model for storing the data. In list box, we internally have one more model that holds your selection data, that holds your selection indices. So if you want to really handle the event of selected element change, you cannot apply it directly on a list box. Rather, you need to apply it on the selection model of that list. So how do I access the selection model of that list? Hobby list dot get selection model. And this selection model, I call it as, let's say, hobby selection model. On this model, I can add the listener, add list selection listener, new list selection listener, and there we have something called as a value change event. Now, whenever there is a change in a value, I want to select, I want to find out which value is modified or is it really changed. So you can just take a look at this. E dot, do you find get first index, get last index, and there are a couple of more methods, out of which you will realize that I can just try to print a simple example first. Let's say system.out.println, and the selected element, I can simply take it from my hobby list directly. So hobby list dot get selected index, that will return me the index. If you want to get the value, you can also think of get selected value. As I said earlier, you might select multiple elements from the list. You might select multiple elements from the list. You can get selected indices, or you may use get selected values. So you have option if you want to take the multiple selection. As I said, let us focus on a simple selection first. If I want to get the selected index, here it is, integer index. If I want to get the selected value, get selected value. And I want to print this particular value. Let's say hobby selected, and I'm printing the index. Later on, I'm also printing the value. Let's check if I'm able to work it out. List box is visible. Moment I select one, you said hobby selected, and one more, hobby selected, and one more, the hobby selected. But have you noticed that I'm not getting a single selection over here? Rather, I'm getting two events just for one selection. Why it is two events? Maybe the first one is unselected, the next one is selected. So there are multiple events getting generated. I do not want to see two events just for one selection. So I will also observe one more element, one more member from this. And you see that there is a member from the list action event called as get value is adjusting. Get value is adjusting will talk about whenever there is a series of events generated, whether it is a first event or probably the last event, whether it is last event or whether it is an intermediate event that you will get from the boolean. Let's check, and you will realize that when I select the first one, you will be having two result. The first time it is true, and second one is false, indicating that this is the final event of selection. If I select another one, again you find that there is one true and there is one false, again giving you the final event of selection. So instead of trying to handle the same thing two times, I will only try to handle when it is final event instead of intermediate event. And that can be quickly done just by ensuring when this value is false, then and only then you try to handle it. You may also try to write if not of e dot get value is adjusted. And let us run it once again. Now you will find that on each selection, there is only single event I am able to handle, right? If you have multiple elements, as I have done it earlier, you will have a scroll pen, and with that scroll pen, you can scroll and you can select the element of your choice, right? So to get the value from the list box, you can use the method get selected index. To get the selected value, you can directly use hobby list dot get selected value. And as I said, if you are going for multiple selections, the multiple selections can be done by using a control key. So you can use control key to select multiple ones. Now, though I'm selecting a multiple ones, I'm getting only hobby 2 because the method I have used is get selected value. You might go for method get selected values, which will return you the multiple string array, and you can get the individual values from that, right? I hope this simple example will help you to understand the list box and how we deal with two models over here. The one model which is holding the data, and there is yet another model, selection model, which is giving me the data of the selected items. In list box, each item in list was one single string. But what if I want to have the whole row having multiple columns. Now you need to go ahead onto the next swing component, and that component is JTable, which can help you showing your data into the tabular format. Let us make our next demo for the same. I'm creating one more Java project and name is swing demo 05. We will create a window. Let's check if our window is working properly. Good. So my window is working well. Now it's time to create a new table inside this. So how I can create a new table? There is a class called as a JTable. And in this JTable, I can keep probably something called as a product table. We will try to store information about some products. So this product table is equal to new JTable. And you can see there are multiple options. You might declare only number of rows and columns. You might give the actual two-dimensional array of rows. You can provide the column names. You can think of using a table model. You might notice that we can also have a separate table column model to keep the information about the column. I will just go with the first one where I can create a simple table model to hold the data. So G table model, and I want to write product model over here. Of course, I need to create the model object separately. So default table model, I am calling it as a product model, and I have to create object of product model before I make JTable. Again, you can see that default table model is over here, empty one. You might give the name of the columns and then number of rows count, initial rows count. You might give the data as well as column name. Again, so many options. Right now, I'm choosing this option where I want to provide the column names. Well, these are column names, and initially there are 0 rows. The column names, the array that I'm creating, this array of object, let's say I want to keep product ID, I want to keep product name, and I want to keep product price. So these 3 values in each row I want to display. Initially, number of rows are 0. Let us set the bounds for the table. Product table dot set bounds. Again, 100, width. I can probably give it a bit more, maybe 200 or 300. And we can also specify some height, let's say 100. And we can add it directly inside the frame. If we add it inside the frame, you will able to see that though there is a space available for the table, neither you are able to see any rows nor you are able to see any columns. Now this problem is because we have not added our table inside the scroll pin. Now just some time back, we have seen how we can add it, a list box into the scroll pin. Let us use the same logic for putting our table inside scroll pin. So again, create an object of J scroll pin. I call it as a product scroll pin. Let me create object of product scroll pin. And inside product scroll pin, I'm putting my product table. Now I need to set the bounds for product scroll pin and I need to add that product scroll pane inside my main frame. And then you see that you are able to see the columns named separately. Right now there are no rows because we have given number of rows is equal to 0. Let us again add some hard-coded data into this. How to add some hard-coded data? Of course, we need to add the data inside the model so that it will appear, it will be shown inside the table. Let me just go back to the product model and let me add some hard-coded data. I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to, let's say, 5, 6, whatever, I plus plus. And I want to add the data. You can take a look at product table and there's option to add a row. Now to add a row, I need to pass the object array because we are trying to add total 3 columns over here. Now to add 3 columns, you need to first make the array of the object, and inside this I can add the elements one by one. Let's say in the first column I want to show the ID. ID I'm putting it I want to add the product name. So product name I'm writing product plus I. As far as price is concerned, let us keep it hard coded I into 100. So for the first product price will be 100, for the second will be 200, 300, 400, 500. And this particular row I will add inside my model. Now, if I run this, you should be able to see the data into the table. And again, you see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 rows are there because we have written I is equal to 1, I is less than 5. If you want to add multiple ones, let me create and add 8. And now you should be able to see even a scroll pane into that. So do you see the scroll bar? We can scroll and we can get all the elements. Now, the way we have seen for the list box, we can handle the selected element. Now over here also, we can get the selected row. And good thing is, it is also dealing with the similar technique of having a separate selection model. Rather, it uses the same list selection model for JTable as well. So whatever code we had written earlier, somewhat similar code, I will write once again, product table dot get selection model. This is our table selection model. And on this table selection model, we will have one add list selection listener. Now this listener again has got a same method, value change method. And we will handle it in a similar way as we done it earlier. E dot get value adjusting is equal to false. Then and only then I want to handle this. Now inside this, I want to see if any row is selected, and if any row is selected, I want to deal with that. How do I get the selected row? So we can have product table dot get selected row. This get selected row will return an integer value. If row is not selected, you will be getting -1. So you can use get selected row. I will collect it into the index variable. And if index is not equal to -1, it means that some row is selected. You want to fetch the data. So let me try to get the data by using product table dot get data. But you find that you will not be able to get any data from here directly. Because as I said that whole function is divided into the 2-3 parts. The model holds the data, controller handles the events, view is just going to show the data. So instead of product table, I will go back to my data model, which is holding the data. And for this product model, dot. From here, I can try to access my row. Now you can get the row. You see that get value at, and you can pass the row number. You can pass the column number. It returns you the object. Please note, when we created this, we have added integer in a first column. We added name in a second column. We added price, maybe a double value in third column. So while accessing back, you need to do the downcasting accordingly. So for the index 0th column, I want to get my ID back. And that ID, I need to typecast it back to the integer. The second one, product model dot get value at. Again, I'm passing index and I'm passing one. It is a product name, so I have to collect it into a string. I need to downcast it to the string. The last one, product model dot get value at. Again, I pass the index at column 2. I need to get the value double price, and I need to typecast it to the double. Let us try to print and see if this data is proper. So let me write it selected row. Let me print the ID. Followed by this, I will have name. Followed by this, I will have price. Let me run the application. And moment I selected one, so you find that I have selected ID 3, then prod 3, and price is 300. You switch it to something different, and you have another one, and so on. You can scroll and you can select. I hope after dealing with the list box, a little more complexity, but you can get such a nice GUI of table where you can keep the data in a tabular format in multiple rows and columns. Now it's time to move on to the next topic. In all the demos so far, our selected values or on a button click, whatever text box values, I try to display them on a terminal, on a console. But I'm sure you understand that in any GUI application, we do not want to see the data onto the console. So what is quick way of showing data or to get the user attention, to get a little input from the user without using any console? Well, this is a place where you need to go for message boxes. And the message boxes in Java Swing, they are created using J option pin. Let us take a look at how we can make some simple demo to demonstrate J option pin or message boxes functionality. I'll create a new project once again. Let me check if window is visible. Good. Again, let us create 2-3 buttons, and on those button click, we can try to display some quick messages to the user. So private, I'm creating a button. Let's say message box button. Now this message box button, I want to create new J button with some text directly message box. I want to set up the bounds. Set bounds. value is X 100, Y let's say 100, width 80, this is 30. I want to add it into my frame. I want to also handle some event. Let's say add action listener and new action listener. Yeah. Now, whenever button is clicked, I do not want to display the message onto the console. Instead, I want to show some message box to the user. How do I show that? To do that, we have something called a J option pane. And for this class, there are few static methods. One of that is show message dialog. In show message dialog, I need to give at least two things. You can also give the title and other things, but minimum two things I need to show. On which component I want to show message box. To be frank, you can keep it null to directly show the message box not related to any component, or I want to show it on the top of my frame. So my outer object, outer frame, I will access it by using class name dot this, and I can put the message. You can give a message, let's say hello world. Then now moment I click on that message box, I should be able to see a message hello world, not in a console, but in a message box. How? Let's see. I click onto this and a hello world message is visible to me. I can close this. Look like it needs bigger width. So I'll just put it around, let's say 160. I run it. This is my message box and I'm able to see the message hello world. Great. Instead of showing just a message box, can I take some quick confirmation from the user? Can I ask user, are you sure want to close the application or something like that? Where you want giving the choices like yes, no, cancel kind of choices. That can be done by using something called as a confirmation dialog, not the message dialog, confirmation dialog. So let us try to make it a confirmation dialog. This is my confirm button, and I will create button in a similar fashion. Let's say this is 200. Let me run this. And you are able to see the button, are you sure? Let me handle the event for confirm button click. And to display the confirmation box, all we need to do is J option pane dot show confirm dialog. Again, you can provide the parent component and you can provide some message. My parent component is once again my main frame, outer object, and I have some message. Please confirm your choice. Something like this. By default, it will give you three options: yes, no, and cancel. Now, depending on the user selection, you will have the selected option over here. So let me just check how I can see that selected option. And as I said that the selected option can be either yes or no or cancel. So you can use a kind of a switch case, or you can simply put selected option is equal to maybe J option pane dot yes option, and you can just put a message to the user. You said yes. right? Else, you can put a message. No option, you said no. And else, if the option is cancel option, again you can put a message. You said cancel. Of course, you can also show these messages in a message box, but let us not complicate the example. Here I'm using system.println to display it onto the console. So there we go. Are you sure? On a click, when I say yes, you said yes. When I click no, you said no. When I click on cancel, you said cancel. So this way you can get the confirmation from the end user. Now it's time we can go ahead on to the next example. Now into the next example, I can look for an input from the user. Let's say you want to take some number from the user, or you want to take some small string from the user. How you are going to deal with? This is where you need input dialog box, and that can be created on click of my input button. On the similar line, I'm also creating this input button. Input button with some different coordinate, and input button is added. Let me also handle the event for the same. Add action listener once again, new action listener, and on a click of this button, I want to take the input from the user. To take the input from the user, all I need to do, J option pane, show input dialog. And again, you can give the window on the top of which you want to show this message box. And you can ask the user to, let's say that, enter your name. Enter your name. So some message, I can put it over here. Whatever name is entered by the user, you can collect it into this plus string variable, and later on, let us just say system.println, and we will say hello to our user, right? Let me run this once again. Let me click on your name. Wow, it's just saying that enter your name. You enter your name over here, you click on OK, and you see that whatever you entered in the text box, that value is collected into the name variable. I hope these simple boxes, dialog boxes, can help you to interact in a better way with the end user. But then the next question, what if you want to take kind of multiple inputs? What if you want to take the inputs with the radio buttons and some other components? Unfortunately, these simple show input dialog or like that, it will not help you. In such a requirement, you will need to create your own dialog boxes. So question is, can we create our own dialog box? Answer is yes. And for creating a dialog box, you need to write another new class inherited from JDialog. Whatever windows we created so far, those windows were created, inherited from JFrame. For the dialog box, we need to do it by using JDialog. Let us give a try on the dialog boxes as well. As usual, we can go ahead with the new Java project. Let me check if my window is visible. Great. Let us create one button, and on the click of button, I want to show a new dialog box, maybe for taking username and password, right? So as usual, let us create a button. Let's check if we are able to handle the event. That is good. Now it's time to go ahead and look for how do I really create a new dialog box. As I said, to create a new dialog box, you have to create a new class. Now this new class, I can give a name, let's say login dialog. This new login dialog class is to be inherited from JDialog, and inside this you need to decide which all components that you want to add, and you need to add the component in just same way as you were adding the components for the frame. Whatever way we created the frame earlier, some similar concept we need to apply once again over here. So we have to still give some default close operation. Now I'll not really put it exit on close because I do not want to terminate my application. I just simply say that do nothing on, or you might even say dispose on close, so that the current window get disposed or current window get destroyed on close click. Done. Then you can have, let's say, login dialog. So you can put some title and you can start adding the components one after another. I have created a simple dialog box, and on submit button click, I'm trying to collect the name text field, I'm trying to collect the password text field, and I'm putting it into the variables called as the name and password. For these variables, if you want to add some getter methods, you can add it over here. So let me simply add some getter methods, generate getters and setters for this name and this password. We will use these methods later. Now, how do I display this login dialog box? If you want to set the size of the dialog box, you can set it into the main frame, or you can even think of setting the size over here itself. So you can give it some width, let's say 320, and height 250. Done. Now this login dialog box, I want to display it on the button click of my main window. So you can create the object of login dialog. So let's say that login dialog is equal to new login dialog. To make that dialog box display, so dialog box dot set visible, whatever the way we were showing it earlier, on the similar line, we can try to display the dialog box over here. Let us try to run this. On a click of login button, oh, you see that my dialog box is created. And on this dialog box, I might give some password over here. That is good. On a click of submit, the login button is closed. But have you noted that while login is open, I can still go back and I can still access my mainframe? Oh, this is possible. What if I want to ensure that user must deal with the dialog box first before looking into the parent window? Now, such kind of dialog box, it is referred as a modal dialog box. The currently whatever dialog box we have created, where we are able to go back to the parent window bypassing the dialog box, this one is called as a modeless dialog box. By default, the dialog box is modeless, but if you want to make it modal, you need to set up one more property of the dialog box called as set modal is equal to true. Now you will realize that in this window, if I click on dialog, you will be able to see the dialog box, but you will not be able to go back to the main window. Now my main window is kind of disabled. I have to first handle this dialog box. I have to enter the details. I have to close the dialog box. Then and only then I can go back to the parent window. This is called as a modal dialog box. Now, whatever data was entered in this dialog box, how do I get it back? In fact, for that reason only, on button click, we collected all that data and stored it into the data members. Not only we stored in the data member, we have also get it using the getter. Now, what all we can do after this dialog box is completed, you can try to access the data by using the dialog dot get name method that we have written over here. So string name, you might want to take a password. So dialog dot get password, and you can collect string password. You can display that information. You can display that information into the console, or as you have seen earlier, you can use J option pen for showing message dialog. Into the message dialog, I want to give my mainframe address and I want to give the message. So where I want to give the message like this, message is equal to entered name is a name and password is passwd. This message, I want to show it to the user. Let's see. Login click. I'm able to see the login dialog box. I can enter username. I can enter password. On submit button click, I'm able to get the data and show it into the message box. Now, I just shown a pretty simple example where I just use a normal simple text boxes to display the dialog box. But practically you can create any control, any swing control that we learned earlier. So you may go for radio button, checkboxes, list box, drop down, table, tree view, or whatever that you want. I hope this gives you idea how we can create even multiple windows in my one application and how we can pass on data from one window to another. In this whole tutorial, so far, we discuss about the swing components. So we learn about some very basic about swings, like how to create a frame. We talked about how we can add some buttons. We discussed how to handle the event like action event or window event, and also the events of the advanced components. We learn how to create the components like label, text box, radio button, combo box, list box, table. We also took idea about the MVC framework, how the model is going to hold the data, how the model can be used also for the selection data, right? Then we also talked about the quick simple message boxes or confirmation dialog boxes or input dialog boxes. And finally, we seen how to create our own custom dialog box. I guess this is fair idea that covers many and most commonly used swing components. For more details, you can go back to the documentation. You can also refer online tutorials and try to explore if you look for some specific swing component. Thank you very much.